Our student speaker today is Noah Ramsey Karger. Noah is from Houston, Texas, where he studied philosophy at the University of Houston and met his fiancée. So what do you think was more important? Chelsea. He is a parishioner at Church of the Advent in Beacon Hill, where he and Chelsea are getting married later this month. Big month for him, huh? In the fall, Noah will be starting his PhD in moral theology at the University of Notre Dame. Congratulations. We look forward to what you have to say.
Me too. Good morning. And congratulations to this year's graduating class of Gordon-Conwell Theological Seminary. What an amazing journey this has been. 2 years and 9 months ago, I, like many of you, came to this town of some 7,000 people, unsure of what I was getting myself into. I'm from Houston, Texas, where everything is big, hot, and loud. Characteristics Hamilton, if you haven't noticed, doesn't exactly share in. The biggest culture shock, though, was learning that there isn't a single mechanical bull within a 100-mile radius, or that spicy just means it doesn't taste like nothing. I also learned from a local the other day that there's more horses than human beings in the town of Hamilton, which is insane, and I started thinking maybe we should be offering a degree for horses. MA and eating carrots, I don't know. Dr. Sundquist, that's up to you. The point is, though, for most of us, this is a foreign place. And compared to some of you, I have it really easy when it comes to culture shock. This experience of our surroundings as foreign is fitting, given the similarly foreign nature of this season. Seminary is a unique time. The best word I can think to describe it is interlude. It's a season of anticipation, waiting for and wondering what the rest of our lives will hold, what God will call us to, where and how we'll serve, etc., etc. Coming to seminary is like calling the vocational hotline and ending up on hold for 3 years. In a world of immediate gratification, this is utterly and completely unnatural. And it's for this reason that so many are quick to doubt its value. We're familiar with the usual objections, things like, you can't learn how to be a pastor in a classroom. My personal favorite, though, is Jesus didn't go to seminary, which has rhetorical force until you remember, among other things, that Jesus is God, and so he probably has an honorary doctorate in beatific knowledge or whatever. But you, like I, ultimately didn't heed these objections. You came anyway. You've put in the time, money, and energy. And now, you're going off to your ministerial job, where you'll likely clock far more hours than the average American, not to mention the unceasing mental and emotional toll, to be paid the same or a little less. You'll be called upon to do every kind of task imaginable because the church can't afford to hire a contractor. Painting walls, fixing toilets, running sound, driving a bus. You'll stand around every Sunday after church for 2 hours, still running on the breakfast and coffee you consumed almost 9 hours ago, entertaining the cares, concerns, and sometimes downright criticism of your congregants. You'll hear from the same people every week about the same stuff, and you love them, but you're also wondering, is this what I signed up for? You might even be told, as I remember my father being told one Sunday after church, quote, I thought I told you to stop wearing that shirt when you preach because it gives me vertigo. It was plaid, by the way. And one Sunday night, you yourself might experience something like vertigo, laying on the couch exhausted, wondering how you're going to do it another week. You'll contemplate the fleeting nature of life, how 45 hit sooner than you thought it would, how you haven't gone to do all the cool trips and stuff that your friends have, aren't running a big church like you thought you would, don't have an important title, and so on and so forth. You might even ask yourself, you will ask yourself, why did I go to seminary? Life is short and hard. Why did I spend 3 years and some $60,000 accruing information that I probably could have found online? Why did I spend 500 hours in a dim library basement memorizing ancient words and writing tedious papers about abstruse topics that I never fully used anyway? It's a good question, because the fact of the matter is, you've made significant sacrifices to be here. Some of you have relocated your entire family. This decision has, in one way or another, altered the entire course of your life. So I'm not going to pretend like the why question is easily dismissed or resolved. But I will suggest to you that the real value of seminary, at least for me, was not what it's so often said to be. Information, skills, connections, all of that is good, and I've gotten plenty of it. But I'd like to suggest that the deeper, more lasting value of seminary is actually in its apparent emptiness. Despite our great impatience, despite the nauseating pace at which our modern world moves, the Christian life is not allergic to these seasons of interlude. As we learn in Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season. We are formed not only in our activity, but in these seasons of waiting too. We are formed not only in our self-actualizing conquests, but in the still, quiet work of reading a good book. I think we've all heard people describe feeling right-sized or in awe by impressive geographic landforms or the powerful forces of nature. But have you not felt right-sized by the words on a page? Do we not know, too, that God's glory is revealed in a still, small voice? As the author of Ecclesiastes explores, what is of true value is often not superficially obvious, but rather lies beneath the surface. Something we all know, it's almost kind of platitudinous, but it's not something we intuitively practice. To do so requires developing this ability to slow down and attend, developing this instinct of interlude. We must learn to see these seasons' apparent emptiness like that of Christ's tomb, teeming with mystery and life. Brother John, a medieval theologian, wrote a letter to St. Thomas Aquinas, asking how best to pursue knowledge. In response, Aquinas said this: "Advance up the small streams, and do not all at once plunge into the sea." When I first arrived, I, maybe like you, wanted to plunge into the sea, to hit the biggest questions first. I quickly realized, though, that without training in the small streams, I was drowning in the deep end. Without doing the work of text criticism, for example, I was missing larger exegetical points. And that's not because text criticism invariably altered my understanding of a given text, but it's that kind of work which puts you in the right posture to even begin the humbling task of reading Scripture closely. Yet this work of swimming in the small streams, of existing peripherally sometimes and in anticipation of the main event, is more than a task of growing in knowledge. This, my friends, is a vocation. This is life in the Spirit. I think this is how we become wise, learning to see Christ in that which appears barren, learning to see small streams not as divergent and eventually desiccated, but as moving together, coalescing further along. To quote the psalmist, "There is a river." Though at times our work has been burdensome or tedious, and it was also often rich with excitement and discovery, no? And in both the struggle and the thrill, we've been learning how to live, how to see our vocations with their many sundry and sometimes less apparently meaningful tasks as in fact deeply rooted in and oriented to the meaning of all existence, bound up in the mystery of Christ. And in learning how to live and how to see our lives, I'd like to wager that we've been learning how to die too. Carl Jung said, quote, "I have good reasons to assume that things are not finished with death." Life seems to be an interlude in a long story. We have good reasons indeed to believe that not only is seminary an interlude in the stories of our lives, but that these lives themselves are the interlude of eternity. And that is the true value of seminary, reckoning with this reality. We've studied it not only with ancient languages and metaphysical categories. My friends, we have studied it with our lives. This lesson has been the lesson, and without it, you'll miss everything. Painting walls, fixing toilets, running sound, driving a bus, taking fashion advice from a brazen elderly woman. You just won't be there for it. And I want to implore you not to do that. Don't miss anything, because Christ is in all of it, and he's beckoning you into eternity. Thank you.